To introduce the next section of our program. Cara is a representative of the Met Council, and we want to share with you why we're here and what our influence is and what our commitment is to the work. And she's going to introduce our speaker. Thank you, Cara.
Great, thanks. Well, welcome everybody. What a great crowd so early in the morning. Again, my name is Cara Latofsky, and I represent District 8 on the Metropolitan Council. And part of Towerside is in District 8. So one of the reasons why I was excited to be invited to be on the board about a year ago was because of the shared mission and the shared values between the Towerside vision and the Metropolitan Council. We at the Metropolitan Council like to think about things in region-wide, district-wide. We think about transportation in that way, we think about water in that way, we think about housing in that way, and it's very much the same vision that Towerside is trying to achieve. And you do know that most of the Towerside vision kind of started because we developed the Green Line through it. So I like to think that I'm like one of the core mothers, although I really had nothing to do with it. But I'm happy to be here at this time. One of the systems that we are building within Towerside is a district stormwater management system, and part of that is because water doesn't have any boundaries, as we've already heard in this system, and so we're excited about the progress that we've made around that. And I get to introduce to you Dan Coleman and Bruce Jacobson from the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization that's going to talk about the work that they're doing within Towerside. So thanks again for coming. Here they go.
Doesn't work. He told me it wasn't going to work. All right, so I'll do it this way. Good morning, everybody. Wow, such a wonderful, phenomenal act to follow. I'm not going to sing, though. Thank you, Dick. Another aside is I could speak for an hour on any of the slides that we have in this presentation, but they're not going to let me do that, so you can breathe a sigh of relief. We have 10 minutes. So stewardship of community assets is the theme, but as Cara said, the focus is really on district systems, and I'm going to speak to district infrastructure, habitat restoration, and the relationship to the public realm. Right in the middle of this discussion, my colleague Dan is going to step to the podium and talk in a little bit more detail about a major opportunity. Can you hear me? Called the Integrated Utility Hub, so we'll get to that in a moment. Where's Catherine? Here's the map. This is the map. So we're starting with the map. And a couple slides that talk about it matters where we are. It truly does. That the cultural and ecological context for much of what we're doing is unique to this place. And Alan alluded to this, but it is focused on Bridalveil Creek watershed to some degree and its relationship to the Mississippi River Valley. It matters where we are because we're in a unique time and place related to the intersection of a whole bunch of other initiatives that we're calling transformative or game changers or other phrases to describe them that include Granary Corridor and Granary Crossing, where it comes up over the railroad tracks and connects to Highway 280 and to our friends in St. Paul via Energy Park Drive. It includes what for many, many years was called the missing link of the Grand Rounds, and now we have a much better name that the Minneapolis Park Board has asked us to use, and that is the Bridalveil Regional Trail. And that has huge implications related to completing the Grand Rounds in Minneapolis, but also many connections, important connections eastward into St. Paul and the St. Paul Grand Round. You also see on here squiggly lines that represent the very real potential for the University of Minnesota's transitway to be relocated northerly so it's not cutting right through the heart of the district. And then there are these yellow circles that also represent huge opportunities, unlocking the value and the place at the table for the development community. And we'll talk about that more in a second. Sometimes referred to as the commons, these are the things that we share. And people have already alluded to this, but earth and air and water are fundamental to sustaining life on this planet. And it's the quality of the air and the water and these resources that are crucial for us to preserve and protect and so forth. But it's also how we use the freebies going forward. And much of what we talk about in terms of innovation relates to how we use rainwater and how we use sunshine and how we use wind and much else. So that's part of this conversation. There's math and science that underpins all this. There's a lot of research and study that has gone into this. Much of this sponsored through the work at the Watershed Management Organization and participation through several of the development groups that are involved in the district already. But basically what it says, the diagram in the upper right, is that there really are two watersheds, and I see Mark here from Cap Region. Thank you, and we hope to continue that conversation. And also the Mississippi River watershed. So those two watersheds are very much a part of this discussion. There's a lot of calculus already that describes water as a valuable resource, but how much water we have at water and snow melt that we have to work with, and how we intend to use that going forward. Okay, bear with me. Catherine reacted to this. It's too complicated and everything. But what I really want to say is that planet Earth has a carrying capacity, and we should live within our resource budget. And science is telling us, and some of the metrics are suggesting that we're already using 2.5 planets worth of resources. So if you look at the line that says sustainable, and what I'm responding to is there are all kinds of buzzwords out there about sustainability and resilience and much else. And this came from our good friend Bjorgvin from Ecology Group and so forth, is that if we sustain where we are today, it's not good enough. We may do less harm by not increasing the mayhem that we're creating, but restorative is the goal. That means that that line that bends down and gets us back within the carrying capacity of our planet, that's what we're after. So we'll talk a bit about restorative. Green infrastructure, I'll just read this. Green infrastructure is the interconnected network of natural and man-made features that support native species, maintain ecological processes, improve air and water quality, and contribute to health and quality of life. And they can be natural areas, they can be man-made, public spaces, trail corridors, and much else. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what we mean by this. The right-hand image, you can see this green and blue armature. This is Heritage Park, just west of downtown Minneapolis. This green and blue armature is the framework, set the frame for the whole rest of the district and how it was developed. And you can see the images on the left, a combination of built places, park places, and so forth, but natural areas as well. A lot of work that we've been doing for probably the last 20 years up in the little town of Ramsey, just north of Anoka on Highway 10. Again, the middle graphic shows this green and blue armature. This is what we're after. This is what we're talking about, is what is the framework for Towerside that drives the rest of the development. So you can see it under construction in the upper right, and in the lower left you see the finished park, in which there are natural areas, outdoor classrooms, wetlands, and much else. But this is their municipal water supply, folks. This isn't just an aesthetic feature. This is the heart of how they think about their water budget and water as a valuable resource. Another one that's been studied a lot, and this is worth you Googling Dockside Green in Victoria, British Columbia. Again, the middle image, you can see the green and blue armature that sets the framework for the whole rest of the district. The upper left, there are tons of graphics and diagrams and so forth that talk about the integration, fully integrated building design with site, waste, treatment, district heating and cooling, district energy, district stormwater, and everything else. And their mantra really is closed loop, that they're not releasing anything. Okay. And this is what it looks like. It's also the very aesthetic visual representation of green and blue. Here we are in Towerside. As Alan said, a lot of work has gone into this already. Years of effort to define the vision and to start to put the physical framework underneath the plan that we're proceeding with. And the overall district green and blue infrastructure approach is really characterized by this diagram, and it talks about restorative closed loop district infrastructure, but it's all of those ingredients of green streets, green building technologies, parks and open space, natural areas, district systems of heating and cooling, energy, and much else. So how we think about streets is one of the things we're talking about. And playing off of Alan's comments is that thinking about streets in a different way. It's to transform places like the upper image into places like the lower image. Asking the question always in terms of infrastructure and traditional thinking about some of these parts and pieces about what else can it do. It's not just about cars, folks. We all know that. The Phase 1 project, now called Stormwater Park, was the beginnings of the, what I would call the humble beginnings of the district stormwater management system. And what I like about the lower left-hand vision image is it's called Entourage. Lots of character sketches that are computer simulations and so forth, and we populate them with people and with furniture and so forth. Not so here. That's an actual photograph from one of the first events held over at the community gardens. Farmer Dell over here, smiling.
Harvest Festival.
Harvest Festival. We didn't have signs up and say, go use this place. They did it. Spontaneous. And that's what it's about. What else can it do? Well, this is also what else it does. Underneath all of that, it cleans and conveys and stores water for all kinds of opportunities for reuse. I want to talk a little bit about development opportunities. Phase 2 of the district stormwater system is really captured by all of the discussion around Malcolm Yards. Hi, John. It really is characterized as green infrastructure demonstration, water is a valuable resource, and so forth. And the little diagram in the upper left says it's at 7A with a little numeral 4. That's where it is in the midst of the district, right around United Crushers Elevator and so forth. We're studying a variety of different concepts of how these 20-plus acres can be organized around development objectives alongside of green infrastructure possibilities. What are the different options? And it runs from more of a traditional street grid all the way through and including more current discussion about this Bridal Veil Regional Trail and the potential for that to run right through the heart of the district. The goal really ultimately is that we're creating multifunctional green and blue infrastructure where natural systems are integrated within public places, multifunctional green and blue infrastructure where buildings are much better integrated within site design, where it's in some form of jigsaw puzzle where all the pieces have come together, or it's often referred to as, with the textile center in the district and so forth, as the mosaic or the fabric, all the threads coming together and weaving whole cloth that starts to look like this. Dan now is going to talk a little bit more about a huge opportunity related to the integrated utility hub. Did I leave you any time? How am I doing?
Lynn, is that mic available, the mobile? Yeah. It'd be great. And I'll just, while I'm waiting for that, I'll just mention that there are some handouts about this, what I'm going to talk about in the back, as well as there's a board over there on this same topic. And this slide here really is just depicting the restoration of our natural systems to a level where we once again, those systems are cooling down the places we live and work in. And thank you. Yeah, I just don't want feedback at this point. And they're going to support our community, as Bruce said then, with clean air, water, and soils as well for us. And with the help, and with the help of current policy, Towerside members here, and the funding from Ignite Foundation, the MWMO, we've been working to make this happen currently. And I'm going to walk you through a story now of how those opportunities are coming together and what we're working on right now to achieve something like this. So, yeah, that works. And I don't know if I can advance this. Bruce, do you want to advance this as I go through? Kind of first practice here, but
Ready?
I think it'll be easier to walk through it. So the point is that this doesn't happen in a vacuum. It does take a partnership to make something like this come together. And right now what we have is Hennepin County is advanced to a waste management policy that's going to require commercial properties and residents to start sorting out their organics And that's going to bring a new waste stream to the market for us to capitalize on. And the question is that going to go and be used to the public's benefit and our community's benefit here? Or is that, and is going to have some sort of environmental implications as well for us? So what if we use this opportunity to secure long-term water needs in the area, create some affordable energy, provide access to affordable local food, and recreate natural spaces that clean our water, clean our air, and provide us with those systems that really we've relied on from the start. And I think we don't have a measure for what the of how much that real impact is we're having on. Next slide, please, Bruce. So, with this, it also means a policy change like this. It means that those commercial businesses and the residents are the ones who are going out and buying the residents are going out and buying the goods. Businesses are. They're also the ones that are sorting the goods. They're putting that labor and effort in. And then they're paying a fee to haul those goods away, right? Next slide, please. So all this effort is part of our concurrent linear model, what's called anaerobic digesters. Okay? If we want to take one business end is to make electricity out of this. If we want to use a wet digestion process in doing so, that means it has to go to a facility. It's going to take up much larger space than how it's designed currently. And it's a conventional model that's really linear. And I'm not going to get too much into what linear is, but it's really how we design all our systems today. Everything's kind of broken off in its own corridor and function, and it works well, but it can work a lot better. So this model, conventional model, has private sector, picks up the organics, hauls them to a privately owned centralized facility, and that turns the waste into electricity and fertilizer. But it also creates air pollution, unpleasant odors, wastewater, heavy truck traffic, many of the issues we're dealing with now for other industries like industrial that's going on in the area. We want to reduce that. It seeks funding from federal, state, and local level. It uses clean municipal wastewater in the process and provides about 6 jobs because in actual, even though these facilities are large, it's really not a lot of work that goes into maintaining a digester once it's up and running. The linear model is designed for really the greatest return on sales of electricity. Its impact is related to, as it's related to social, environmental, and economic systems, really is not priced by the market, thus it provides very little measurable return to the public benefits. So where do we go from there? What is Towerside for? What are we trying to do? I think this is why we're telling this story, because it's really evident what can happen here if we really start to think systematically and different about this. This is a restorative model. It's a model where organics arrive maybe through a pneumatic tube or ultimately hydrogen-powered trucks. It's a smaller district facility. And scaling that down, you create many more job opportunities. It's a network of facilities. They're processed in mostly closed-loop system of electricity. There's premium fertilizer that comes out, local food, and clean water. This model uses, this model creates zero emissions, creates about 30 jobs relative to the 6 of the other traditional model. It maintains long-term infrastructure, so actually priced into it and how it's designed and so forth is that not only are we tying in to all the green infrastructure surrounding it in the waterways and so forth and maintaining that long-term, the cost and maintenance of replacement, but also the mechanics of the facility itself. It uses clean wastewater, creating energy. It uses and cleans wastewater, creating energy and nutrients for fertilizer that support hydroponics, aquaponics, so local food. Next slide. So in the end, I just want to say, this is a more resilient, healthy, equitable city. We're really looking for us and our partners to lead and collaborate with us. And it is a paradigm shift. It's a significant paradigm shift, and we're not, we realize that, and that's why we're trying to do it here, because both cities have stood up and said, let's do something different here. Pass resolutions that this is an innovation district. And we as a watershed want to utilize that opportunity, but we also want to utilize it across the watershed and across the region for help other areas of the region be able to replicate that as well through our actions. We want natural places that can cool and clean our air, accessible to all. We want free energy that can offset high housing cost or affordable housing. Also, nutrients that can, for organic food that's locally sourced, fuel for our cars that's locally sourced. Waste streams, really, they're seen as valuable resources because they are. And we need to start taking that message and putting it into action.
Okay. So, repeating the slide, multifunctional green and blue infrastructure. It's about high water quality, reuse options, and it has a lot to say about district character. This is not a mistake. This is my favorite slide, because this is kind of, in a sense, where we are today. The two projects that have really set us on this course and left the door open for everything else to follow are Green 4th Street and the Stormwater Park that we mentioned. To that, they want to add the current projects that are either under construction or on the drawing board. I mentioned Malcolm Yards, we talked about, you've seen the link, Green on 4th, the square on the southern portion of this slide is the Weyerhaeuser development over near New Sunrise Bank over on the St. Paul side of things. To that, going back a number of slides where we talked about the transformative initiatives, is that this is real. In the next 3 to 5 years, the potential for Granary Corridor to happen, Granary Crossing, Bridal Veil Regional Trail, repurposing of the existing U of M Transitway, and development projects throughout the district have a huge impact on what happens next related to green and blue systems. And then put it all together, what the future might look like or should look like, is it really is putting back a lot of the connections that have disappeared over the years, connecting back to the river valley and this whole network of green and blue, and this whole map really could be covered with that same kind of cartoony symbol of trees and waterways and so forth, but that's the intention. Okay, wrapping up very quickly, the recap is the green and blue infrastructure is natural places, it's man-made kind of public places, public parks and so forth, the summary slide from Dan's discussion about the integrated utility hub, and all of that cast within tons of research about the value of water and much else and how that translates into the responsibility to use these resources wisely among much else. I'm tempted to skip over this slide, but I'm going to do two things. It's already been alluded to. There's lots of vision related to Towerside, and a lot of times it's cast in this triple bottom line kind of discussion, social, environmental, economic benefits, and in the center, there's usually words like health or equity or climate change and so on and so forth. The lower portion, the lower left portion of the site is every developer I've spoken with wants to do more and has done more. As new development comes into the district, they have a pro forma, they have their overall project, and if you take stormwater management, the orange in this diagram, typically it's fairly conventional is what they have budgeted. More and more these days we're getting to the blue crescent where it's conventional plus, and the developer is willing to fund that or co-fund that. But if we really are going to reach the vision and level of innovation that we want, represented by the green crescent there with the numeral 3, where it's shared systems or stacked systems or restorative outcomes, we need help, and that's the theme of the last slide. Don't read all this, it's just that there are multiple benefits across all of these different categories, and that what someone spoke to already, the bottom line here is that we need a better aligned leadership, policy, purpose, design, and funding. This image is here for a reason. This is actually an award winner in a design competition in Korea. And what's interesting about it is if you squint at it, we could do a better job really, but if that was Granary Corridor on the right-hand side of the image, if that was Bridalveil Regional Trail on the left-hand side of the image, that's the Mississippi River in the background, and the kinds of integrated systems development we're looking for, buildings integrated with site, community purpose uses, office makerspace, housing, but also this green and blue infrastructure where we're talking about generating energy, growing food, cleaning stormwater, and much else. Thank you.
Thank you.